tough way to lose a game. Tough way to lose a game.
Did you think it was, I'm sure you looked at it, did you think it was a foul? Do you disagree with the call?
You look at it.
It's on that last play.
Great call. Next question.
What do you feel about your closeout on that play?
It was a great call. Next question.
All right, Brunson on his Bill Belichick there. I don't blame him. Here's what crew chief Ed Malloy said after the game. After seeing it during post-game review, the offensive player was able to return to a normal playing position on the floor. The contact, which occurred after the release of the ball, therefore is incidental and marginal to the shot attempt and could not have been called. Where are my guys? There they are. Hello, Kendrick Perkins, Brian Windhorst. Guys, it's officially NBA season. I mean, I know it's been NBA season since October, but now it's really NBA season. And the heavy lifting is up to you two. All right, let's dive right into this. Big Perk, I want to start with you. Were the Knicks robbed?
Hell yeah, they was robbed. And Molly, look, that was one of the worst calls I've seen in NBA history, even when I was playing. When it comes down to it, I watched that entire basketball game. The officials messed up a great basketball game. It was physical. Guys were going at it. The Knicks were down double figures. They came back. They were going toe-to-toe. Dylan Brooks jumped up the game. Him and Jalen Brunson got into it. Dylan Brooks knocking down the tray ball. Jalen Brunson clutch shot to tie the game. And all of a sudden it comes to this. And I don't want to hear the explanation after the game and the officials admitting that they were wrong. They knew they was wrong when they actually had to go review it and see how much time was on the clock. At the end of the day, this was bad for the game last night. It was one of the worst calls I've seen in NBA history, and they should have let this thing play out. It was a physical game all game long. How do you call that?
Well, it was a bad call. Ed Malloy admitted that it should not have been a foul. And the Knicks, we don't know. Let's just see what happens if we go to overtime. And, yeah, but the Knicks, I would feel some type of way. Now, the explanation saying all that, it doesn't make me feel any better in the morning because I still have a loss. I have an L. That's what I have. And it's tough. But I like the fact because a lot of times, Perk and Brian, sometimes, I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of times, even though they know they're wrong, they go like, well, it was just, there was contact below the waist and there was this, and then he looked at him wrong, and so we had to throw the foul. Ed Malloy stepped up and said, you know what? I gagged this one. I missed this call. A foul should not have been called, and we should have been going to overtime. Because you can look at the guy, he tried to throw it, he almost like he was shot putting it, Perk. It was wrong. It was a bad call. Ed Malloy admitted it. It was kind of like the call last year, LeBron in Boston. Everybody knew it was a bad call. There was nothing you could do because everybody saw. Now, I'm not so sure, and the thing is with this one, because it's so far out, you can see it. And now we look at it like, bro, that's not a foul. That's not a foul. But he made it. Ed Malloy said, you know what? Hey, it was after the release. It was marginal, incidental. Therefore, a foul shouldn't have been called. But that doesn't make the Knicks or the Knicks fans feel any better this morning.
Shannon, you have no idea, unfortunately, how right you are comparing those two calls. Because as somebody who defends NBA officials, I feel like more than anybody in the media, I have to sit here and report to you that the same referee missed both calls. The same referee. It was not Ed Malloy. Ed Malloy was the crew chief, so he came out and said it. Unfortunately, it was another referee, Jason Goebel, who was on both calls. And I'm also somebody who says that the NBA games are not determined by officiating 99% of the time. I strive to be an unbiased observer, but I say 99% of the time. This was the 1%. This was an absolutely brutal call. And not only that, but it was great defense. Jalen Brunson played great defense there. He forced Aaron Holiday into only using one arm.
Exactly.
Because he did such good contesting of that shot. He did one arm. Now, I'm not adept enough in fundamentals of officiating to know whether the official was in the right spot. It was a strange play in that it was a blocked shot that came flying out. It was an unusual moment. You just can't blow that whistle there, just bottom line. And just to be clear to the fans, they did review it, but they weren't reviewing whether it was a foul. They were reviewing whether the foul
Time on the clock.
came in front of the time on the clock. And this comes, and there's no good time to lose a game like this, but this comes at just a brutal moment for the Knicks because they were already down effectively 4 starters going into this game. They came in losing 3 out of the last 4. They got a 3-game road trip this week before the All-Star break. And then in the fourth quarter, Dante DiVincenzo, who has been carrying them as they've been down all of these players and are integrating these new guys they traded, he looked like he popped his hamstring after playing 41 minutes, probably because he's been playing so many minutes lately. I don't know what he's going to do going forward the rest of this week. I would say it's iffy at best. So the Knicks get absolutely gut punched. And I know that Tom Thibodeau and Jalen Brunson took the high road after the game because they're both pros when it comes to this. But I will also say that it says something when in the pool report, the referees don't even wait for the last 2-minute reports and admit the call was wrong.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the second time it's happened in the last 2 years with the same official where the pool report admits he was wrong.
You look at the trades that they made, getting OG Anunoby. You look at the getting Bogdanovich, getting Alex Burks. And when you think about the Eastern Conference, the number 2 seed is so important because you don't want to face the Boston Celtics into the conference finals. Getting that number 2 seed, and the Knicks are knocking at the door. I think it's about, 2 games, Wendy, for us the separation between, about 3 or 4 teams in the East right now, the Bucks, the Cavs, and the Knicks, for us getting that number 2 seed. And this game right here that was determined by a wrong call by the officials could hunt them down the line.
Yeah. Wendy, to play off what you said, the majority of the time, the lion's share of the time, the officiating is great. It's the one time that it's not. It's kind of like in football. It's the one time that the call is wrong. It's scripted or the fix is in. And I don't believe that with sports. Having played sports, Perk, you played 14 years, I played 14 years. Wendy, you've covered the game. But it's the one time in plays like this where they paint the entire NBA with a broad stroke and say, see, I told you, it was scripted. No. Josh Goble made a bad call. I don't believe it was anything more than that. He made a bad call. I love the fact that Ed Malloy, who was the crew chief at the time, admitted that it was a bad call. That's all. There's nothing else that can be said or done.
I was watching all the pregame shows before the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And one of the retired official, I forget his name, but he was talking about how he's so excited about the officiating crew that was officiating the Super Bowl because he said he's going to expect them to hold their flags. There's going to be less flags, meaning that he was going to allow guys to play through certain things because he wanted whoever, the determined factor, they wanted it to be determined by the players on the field and not by a flag or a call. And I thought that was a beautiful thing to hear.
But I will say this. I don't believe timing of the game, the importance of the game, should dictate whether a foul or a flag is thrown. When they threw that foul on McDuffie, it was a foul in the game. He held Jennings. Okay, you throw it. Remember last year, everybody said on Bradbury, when he tugged Juju, man, you can't throw a flag in that situation. There's too much at stake. It's a foul. It was a flag. It was a penalty. He impeded his progress. Even in an NBA game, when you hear this a lot, man, with the importance of the ball game, at the timing of the ball game, you just got to swallow your whistle. No, that's not what Dr. James Naismith said. You can't. He didn't say, well, if the guy's Shaq size and the other guy's Muggsy Bogues, you can't call a foul on Muggsy Bogues if he jumps on Shaq's back because of the size difference. He didn't say, well, at this timing of the game or the importance of the game, you swallow your whistle. But in this situation, you cannot call that because there was nothing there. He missed it. I don't want to make any more out of it. I probably made a short story too long. But there's nothing more, and there's nothing to Knicks. And I understand that Thibodeau is upset, and Jalen Brunson said, I'm not going to give the NBA none of my money. You get no free money from me. You made a horrible call, and then you're going to take $25,000 or $50,000 for me criticizing the call. I'm just going to say next question. It was a bad call, but Ed Malloy said, you know what, we missed it.
Wendy, before we go, what should the league do?
They should put out a last two-minute report and try to train their officials better and move on.